Good afternoon, everybody. It is Friday, the 19th, and this will be the teaching video for this coming Sunday, February the 21st. We'll be meeting in our simple churches this Friday, or this Sunday, I'm sorry, at 10 a.m. and for Zoom at noon at 12. But first, for those of you who may be watching this for the first time, and that happens from time to time, just a little bit about who we are as a church. And that's captured here in this first slide for you. And we say this is really our mission and the core of who we are and what we do. That because the grand story of the Bible, focused on Jesus, welcomes us to make it our story as well. We're a family of families who worship and follow Jesus as Lord by learning to think and live wisely together by His Spirit so that we can seek the welfare of our city and world in the way of Christ and His apostles. And that has within it, and for those of you who got the annual report last week, our core values are all contained in this statement too. So I hope you'll refer to it from time to time and just even reflect on it and pray from it, understanding with the explanation that I gave in the annual report last week about what each one of those means. And if you have questions about them, well, let's talk about it, and we may do that some Sunday where we'll just take time and focus on this and those core values that are represented here. I isolated them to kind of three main statements, and I think six expanded overall. But you get the idea. I think that those are all there. As I said, this coming Sunday we'll meet again in separate locations on campus at 10 a.m. in our simple churches, and we're continuing to do that. This video is meant to prepare you for that time together. There will be some discussion questions at the end of the video that will really be the bulk of what you want to talk about. But the slides are available to you in a link down below in the description, and they'll be also linked in the email that goes out to you on Sunday morning as well, if you just need to pull them up right there on your phone at that time. We're continuing to follow our mask protocols and cleaning things up after we're done. But where we've been meeting in the simple churches, we'll be meeting again this coming Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Zoom and Noom will be at 12 o'clock, same day. So that Zoom link will go out in an email to you all at 9 a.m. on Sunday. So we're kind of in that pattern, and I think you all know how that communication pattern is working. If you ever have problems with links or anything like that, feel free to text me or email me. They get changed from time to time, or an update happens, and it's always good back. I can go back and refresh those. So we'll see you. We'll see you then. Disregard that final note. We are not in person next weekend. We were in person last week, so that's a previous slide that I did change. We'll meet on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. for prayer on Zoom. We gather together and pray for one another, share latest news, updates, and things like that. And then because of the Zoom technology, are able to even break up into smaller groups where we can share even other things and pray in tighter circles. So that is what we'll be doing on Wednesday of next week as we do. And that's going to be a habit, I think, that will outlast the COVID time. That's really been a beneficial thing to have through the week, to be able to just stop after dinner and spend an hour together. We run strictly from 7 to 8 o'clock, so you can plan on when we start and when we finish, and it's really helpful to be able to use that efficiency well. We're praying this month in February. We focus on different partners in our local and global initiatives, and so we're focusing on the Lighthouse Pregnancy Resource Centers in our area. Continue to pray for them. We'll try to get a web link to you where you can get to their website and just see there's some latest news there, and we do get both mailings as well as email updates from time to time. You can always ask Larry and Doris Bird. They are our official liaison from Grace Church with Lighthouse Pregnancy Resource Center. So you can ask them if they want more information about that particular group as well. And they're doing a great work in our area and need the support of all the churches in the area as a means of making an impact for families in crisis and giving options to unwanted pregnancies. We're continuing Thursday night in our video series. We just started in the book of Acts this last week, and so we'll be looking at Acts Overview number 2. Those of you who are familiar with the videos, you can watch the overview. That takes you through a summary of and the major ideas through chapter 13 to 28 of Acts. So that's a really important thing coming along here. So we'll be getting a study guide out to you on Tuesday, and you'll also be able to read the transcript there and jump in on that if you haven't yet. Acts is absolutely foundational to all of us as Christians. Acts is our guidebook today, and so it is not an optional read. It is a must read. It is what defines the Christian life and mission today in many ways, in big and small ways. So cannot overstate how important your understanding and commitment to the things in the book of Acts is about. It is often a subject of our teaching, and we're really focusing on in these weeks ahead. So please join us if you can. I'm going to forward to the series here, and these are things that you can read up on yourself. We've got just a couple more. We're going to be finishing this right as spring comes upon us here at the beginning or early part of March, and so we're coming in on the close of 1 Peter. So just a few more weeks left in that, but we're getting into chapter 5 this week. So hope you'll take a chance to continue to go back and look at the ground we've already covered, and sort of add each piece on each week to that, because we do want to. One of the skills we're developing is the sort of the keeping the big picture and the small pictures together. The overall understanding of Peter and his letter here, and then looking at the individual parts and making sure we're going back and forth with those and making strong connections as well. So here's again the overview of Peter and the literary design that we're following based on the Bible Project's work. A few tweaks here and there, but by and large, this helps you visualize it and kind of see it in one thing. And it's a way of mapping the book of 1 Peter in a visual and a graphic form. So I hope this has been helpful to you. And again, that overview is always available in the playlist that they have on the New Testament. I have also linked this to the playlist on our YouTube channel where these teaching videos are located too. So you can always find it there too. And again, a reminder, just YouTube, we're really leveraging a lot. So this video and the other videos that we've done in this series are located in a playlist, the At Home with God series. And we'll likely keep doing these kinds of things on into the future. Again, it seems to have been a really good tool to get everybody ready for our discussion time together. So just like with First Principles or other studies that we do, you're not walking in, hearing these things for the first time, but you've heard them, you've thought about them, you may have even talked about them, you've read over them. When we get together, that time that we have, which is so precious right now, it's such a short time in the midst of all this, we're able to use it to maximum effect. We've noticed hinge verses. We talked about that leading up to the second section here in the body of 2:11 to 4:11, and we're now in a section that has a hinge verse as well that is now leading to the closing that we have here. So take note of those things, literary markers, things to note that, why is it 4:12 to 5:9? Well, in their mind, there's a hinge verse there. There's a turning from 4:11 to 4:12 that is noteworthy. Look it up yourself and try to explain in your own words why that is, how you see that happening. We're focusing on 5:1 to 7 actually today. I've added a couple of verses onto where they've broken this this up. I think it much better fits here in the pattern of things. So this is one of the little tweaks here that I've made. But you can see how we're getting towards the end. And the shift in chapter 5 focuses specifically on leaders and their care for the church. Um, so we'll take a look at that today. Again, these are things that you can look at on your own, and this is my summary statement from last week. Big idea being, hang on, keep working, keep pressing forward. Jesus will never fail you. Even in the midst of great opposition, Jesus will never fail. And Peter just has continued to remind of Jesus' sovereignty, the power, and the lasting nature and the effect of his resurrection, and that we live in that reality just like they did then. And despite all the opposition, despite all the things that happen around, because of our new identity and because of our new purpose in Christ, we have to live in the reality of that. And part of that reality is the stage that is set for suffering and persecution. But in many ways, it's part of God's grace to us in that situation, in that stage that's set because of our belief now in the new age that's begun with Jesus' death and particularly his resurrection. There's a new opportunities to bring others in on it, like we have been, by faith and by pointing them to Jesus and remaining faithful and steadfast to Him. One of the summary quotes that I ended with last week, again, just sort of helps to get your mind ready for how we bridge into today. But the commentary said that part of Christian faith is the settled belief that God is faithful and that we can rely on Him utterly at this point, as at all others, and to get on with the task of bringing His light and love into the world. So no matter what's going on, we know that God's going to bring it to its necessary and His desired and designed end, so we can get on with the work. We can go about the things that we need to do and not worry about that, not be anxious about that. You'll see an echo of that as well in the passages today. So as we approach a passage today, in any passage, in this case it's Peter's writing, we're asking questions. What's Peter talking about? What is he saying about this? And why is Peter saying this? So there are some basic questions to keep in your mind as you read this, and even writing out your initial thoughts about this. That's a excellent and necessary step in the learning process. You don't forget things if you got to express them and sit down with pen and paper, or tap it out on a note on the computer or your iPhone or your phone, whatever the case may be. Here's the passage we're looking at today. And now, a word to you who are elders in the churches. I too am an elder and a witness to the sufferings of Christ. And I too will share in His glory when He is revealed to the whole world. As a fellow elder, I appeal to you. Care for the flock that God has entrusted to you. Watch over it willingly, not grudgingly, not for what you will get out of it, but because you are eager to serve God. Don't lord it over the people assigned to your care, but lead them by your own good example. And when the great shepherd appears, you will receive a crown of never-ending glory and honor. In the same way, you who are younger must accept the authority of the elders. He goes on to say, and all of you, dress yourselves in humility as you relate to one another. For God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So humble yourselves under the mighty power of God, and at the right time He will lift you up in honor. Give all your worries and cares to God, for He cares about you. And that's the passage we're looking at today. So how would you summarize this passage in your own words? What's Peter saying? What is he saying about that? What's the subject? And then why do you think he's saying it? This is a real shift. The focus on leaders and then elders he considers himself peers with or co-laborers with, and then the switch to younger men, and then back to all of them, all in the same passage. So you can see he's closing up his arguments or his thoughts and addressing the whole church, but starting with the leaders and the important role that they have. And leadership is an important issue today. And with the next slide, I'm not making a political statement, but just simply using an example that's fresh in front of us right now. We know about these things that are fresh in the news. They're very, very near to us in proximity, And so what we define leadership, how we define leadership, that's come into question in this case. And what is leadership, and how is it defined, and what's wrong with this current understanding of leadership in this case that we're talking about. And I pulled a political cartoon that just came out today, came across my desk. I love those. They say so much in very short space. But it raises the question of leadership, and that's what Peter's talking about. What is leadership? What's the focus of leadership? What defines good leadership? And what is leadership even for? And how do you know a good one, and how do you know bad ones? Those are issues that are raised. Very, very important issue in the family of God, especially when the family of God is under duress and is under strain and under stress. And, that's been the case in this past year. And some leadership has flourished and shown itself to be a really good example, and others have fallen into question. And just put it in perspective, I start with the quote today that helps us kind of couch this, because it is a hot topic. It is an important topic in our culture and society today. How many books have been written on leadership, and how many examples and conferences, and but what are we talking about in this case? Here, one of the quotes from the commentary on this it goes like this: the focus of the Good Shepherd is not only on his or her own qualities, but on the needs of and potential dangers for those they are looking after. Important point. That, of course, is the first main point Peter makes here. Verse 2, don't think about your own profit, but rather about the needs of the flock. Peter appeals as himself an elder. The word means senior, both in the sense of status within the community and in the sense of older in years. And the two, of course, often go together. Who has responsibilities like this and hence knows what he's talking about. All right, so just sort of understanding where Peter's coming from and what he's basically talking about. The real point is the needs of those that you're caring for. Leadership isn't something that you design or characterize or create yourself. It's something that's created out of a situation, out of a context. And leadership in God's economy, in the church and in the mission, is a matter of the context where you can't become a leader unless you're doing these kinds of things. It is defined by the nature of the work that you're doing, not by a sort of character qualities or characteristics. In this case, it's absolutely essential for moving God's plan and purpose forward in this new family with a new identity that has in the new purpose. And Peter turns to that subject in the last part of his letter, a very, very important sort of closing set of remarks. But what makes a leader in general, and what makes a leader specifically in the family of God? Let's look at it in just a few things that I've highlighted here. Peter says here, a witness to the sufferings of Christ. So in other words, it's a high level of identification with Christ himself and a willingness to follow, not to just observe and remain at a distance, but actually to follow. And Peter, of course, had a major failure, and we'll look at how Jesus challenged him here in a second. But he's very, very clear on what his model and his example is, that it's in Christ himself, and we have the reliability of an eyewitness here, and he's using that and leveraging that not for his own purposes but for the sake of the church, and saying that these leaders, you too, like me, are one who are to be models and examples just as Jesus was for us, and I'm passing on that and encouraging it to you. He also says, recognize that we'll share in his glory when he's revealed to as well. The path to glory for Jesus was through the valley of suffering, and that will be the same for leaders. It's not about glory first. It's about difficulty and the task at hand, no matter what that is, in the likeness of Christ. The glory comes later as a result of being faithful to that work. He then makes it clear in some very sharp statements here. Care for the flock. Care for the flock. So shepherding language that they would understand very, very much. The focus is on the flock, knowing and understanding the needs, and having the focus there. not on self, not on reputation, not on other things, but for the needs of people. Those other things serve that particular need. Watch over it, meaning the flock, willingly, not grudgingly. It's something, if you don't want to do it, you don't have a passion to do it, you shouldn't be doing it. Because it's a matter of serving God. You know it's the right thing to do, and you know it's what you've been prepared to do and directed to do. And Peter's speaking specifically here to these men, elders like himself, who, because of the family order of the church, would be men, just as men lead their individual families because the church is a families. It would be men to keep that household order at the broader household level as well as the individual household level. But there's an example that continues on here, on down into the individual household. Men, these are challenges for you. These are the kinds of qualities you need to have for your own families. And ladies, you share in that. And older ladies for younger ladies, there's that aspect as well. Older men for younger men too. So it's working within the family order of the church. And it's something we ought to do, because in that way we demonstrate that we love God and we appreciate what He's doing. And if we have opportunity to do that, and we're called to do that, even as challenging as it may be, and in competition with other things that we would rather do, perhaps, or are more convenient for us or less convenient, whatever the case may be, it's to be done willingly. Don't lord it over people assigned to your care. It's not about position. It's not about the use of authority. It's not about control. It's about leading them. It's about their well-being and their nurture. Just as, again, it seems somewhat undignified, but the comparison of shepherd to sheep, you don't have to be around very long to realize, the sheep know and understand their lives depend upon the shepherd. And where he goes, they go, and what he does, they do, in the sense of trusting him, and understanding, not blindly, but innately that it's going to be okay as long as he's around and they stay near him, and that puts the shepherd in a very, very important spot. So, that's a defining of leadership. Leadership is defined by the nature of the community that it serves, and that's what's going on here. We have a community that is of those who have a new identity in Christ and a new purpose in Him, and that sets the context for what leadership is. Your job is to see them through and to shepherd them and care for them and nurture them through good times and bad to God's certain future, the very first things that we've had in the background of this letter up till now. Lead them by your own good example. Follow me as I follow Christ, Paul would say. And when the great shepherd appears, you'll receive a crown of never-ending glory and honor. Again, that's down the road. Right now, the focus is on the care and the work for others. And the same then with the younger. Order yourselves in such a way. Here's where the next verses are going to say that you need to order yourselves properly. These aren't things that you, again, insist on and are in conflict about or jealous of, but you understand that you're all in this together and everyone has a part to play. And some of you men are leading and shepherding, and you're modeling that to others, and you're caring for the needs. And others, you're not there yet, but order yourselves under them in such a way that you too will be prepared, and in that way you're doing your part. Even now, you can see how these kinds of things, if a community is under duress and under persecution and it is likely to get worse, these are the kinds of things that are going to hold it together despite what's going on the outside or whatever pressures are coming on. Who is Peter talking to here, and why address him at this point in the letter? Well, I think that may be obvious now. This is a leadership issue. Leaders are crucial in the family of God at all levels, and so it's a very, very important thing that those who are qualified for it and those who have the experience and the maturity for it and the wisdom for it should aspire to it, and that begins young in life. And I might interject here. You men in the church, all of you men, and even you young men who are in college age or before you're getting married. But there's a really great study that I suggest we consider doing together called "The Measure of a Man." It is based on 1 Timothy 3 about Paul's instructions there about the qualities of an elder, the very kind of people that Peter is talking to here. And but those qualities are qualities that all men ought to have, and they're the things that qualify one to be in this kind of position. So there's something that all men in particular ought to be aspiring to. In the least, it's going to make you a better husband and father and general follower of Christ and member of his family, but it also will prepare you for and lead you to the aspiration of leadership, which is something, it's good to aspire to that for all the right reasons and in the right way. Peter learned his lesson, and I take you to John chapter 21, 15 to 19. You remember this exchange with Jesus at the end of John's gospel, after Jesus has been resurrected, and the disciples have gone away and not quite knowing what happens. Jesus comes and meets them at the lake, and they're fishing, and Peter jumps in the water, and Jesus is there cooking breakfast for them, and fish, and they're having a discussion, and Peter's addressed by Jesus in this way. It says, after breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," Peter replied. And this is the Peter who's writing the letter we're studying. "You know I love you." "Then feed my lambs," Jesus told him. Jesus repeated the question, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord," Peter said. "You know I love you." "Then take care of my sheep," Jesus said. A third time he asked him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt that Jesus asked the question the third time. He said, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Then feed my sheep. I tell you the truth, when you were young, you were able to do as you liked. You dressed yourself and went wherever you wanted to. But when you're old, when you're an elder, you'll stretch out your hands and others will dress you and take you where you don't want to go." Jesus said this to let him know by what kind of death he would glorify God. Then Jesus told him, "Follow me." So when Peter talks about leading in the midst of suffering and sacrifice and following the example of Jesus, this is in his mind. This is what happened with him in his exchange, one of his last exchanges with Jesus himself. This is the same Peter. And you can see then here the model and the example this is for those who are fellow elders with Peter at that time, and those who continue to have that role today. But again, it has a reflection of all kinds of leadership at all levels. This is not just exclusively for a few who have a title or a function, but it does have influence on them. But it should particularly be evident in those who are serving in these roles when the church is under such difficulty, like we've seen in 1 Peter. But the definition of Peter's love for Jesus is defined by how well he cares for the sheep. What is Jesus' main concern? Why did Jesus give his life? He gave his life for his church. He gave his life for the family that he was bringing into birth by virtue of his life, death, burial, and resurrection. And that is what's passed on to leaders. And so to serve Jesus and to serve as a leader in his church is to take care of his sheep. It's to nurture, it's to watch, it's to guard, it's to do all of these things. And so it's a huge responsibility, and it's a wonderful privilege, and it's one that requires much prayer and much common understanding of what that role and that purpose is. Unfortunately, it's not always understood in many churches, and there are a lot of problems. And many of you might have histories like that where you see that this didn't happen, and it's unfortunate. But this is what Jesus intended, and it's very, very clear and self-evident here. Commentary goes on to say that what we need is people who care deeply about the state of the community and the wider society, people who have studied the relevant issues with professional attention, people who listen to what all sorts of other people have to say, and people who can articulate and communicate the vision to which they have come in such a way as to help others to share it as well. Now, of course, the experts might say, well, that's what we mean by leadership. If it is, well and good, but let's study and practice the thing itself, not some abstract category removed from reality. Leadership is learned in the midst of followers. You can't be a leader if you don't have followers, and that's what he's saying here. Not only by example, but by the vision that you set, and having others understand it and share it and follow her. A leader is defined by the followers that he cares for, not by some abstract qualities or by degrees or by other kind of things. Leadership is learned in the context of strengthening and establishing and multiplying the family of God in these cases. He goes on to address the whole community once again and takes certainly continuing to include the leaders and the young men that he's addressed earlier, but he sends it generally this way: all of you, dress yourselves in humility as you relate to one another. Let it be the clothes you wear. Let it be the first thing everybody sees. That's kind of what we see. We see how we present ourselves to one another. Present yourselves. Put your humble best on as you relate to one another, and because in doing so you're laboring with Christ together as you order yourselves and your lives together. Because if you do, God will give grace to you. He'll give you what you need to deal with the sharp edges and the difficulties and the misunderstandings. Humility is what helps you through that. And God, humility makes us into a beautiful vessel, a beautiful empty, cup that God can fill with His grace. Pride fills that cup with worthless stuff, and there's no room for anything else to be added to it. But a humble, empty vessel that God can use, He fills with grace, and that grace is then able to be not only for the person themselves, but there's more than enough then to extend to others. We need that often. So again, how important it is when things are just not going well inside and outside of the family of God, especially on the outside in this case. Humility is one of the absolutely key ingredients that's going to hold you together. And how many problems have ever been caused in churches that many of you know because of lack of humility and pride in the place of it. He goes on to say, at the right time, He will lift you up in honor. Pride is the lifting up of self. It's when I elevate myself or you elevate yourself to a point that, it's really not your job to do that. It's God's job to lift you up. God, through Jesus' humble sacrifice, lifted him up, raised him up. There's resurrection language in this as well. Work hard now and do the hard things now, because one day God is going to raise you up. And it's not just in the sense of feeling good about it, but you're actually going to be raised to new life. You're going to inherit the new world and the new heaven and new earth with Him when Jesus returns and reappears. So just know that. And once again, because of that, here we are again. Because of that, because of what's going to happen, give all your worries and cares to God. He cares upon you. He cares about you. Throw them all onto God's shoulders. Throw them all onto Him. He can bear them. You cannot, because He's going to lift you up. Don't try to lift yourself. You have all these other things as well. Pass them on to God and let God be the one who lifts you up. Humbly serve Him in whatever capacity that you've been given. And you can again see the echoes for the leaders as well. But this is also, all of us in life have places where we need to exercise these things. Commentary goes back on to talk about and compare this with the worldly way of leadership. Is of course to boss and nag, to threaten and punish. You may be able to get sheep to do what you want that way, but they will be neither happy nor healthy. Such an approach may look strong, which is how often leadership is defined, but it is in fact weak. The call to be a humble shepherd is the call to the true strength in which one doesn't have to shout or bully, because the work of humble service has forged such a strong bond between shepherd and sheep that the shepherd only needs to walk towards the pasture and the sheep will follow. So what changes in our lives, our thinking, actions as individuals, as a community, needs to be renewed? What do we need to be renewed in our thinking? What do we need to think differently about or approach differently as individuals or as families? And I've addressed many of you here, but men in particular, and those of us who are leaders or aspire to leaders. This is speaking directly to us in this case. And I've summarized my thoughts this way. Leadership in the church is revealed in times of testing and trial because the true leader is focused on the follower and how they are presently doing in order to arrive together finally at the final destination. Leave no one behind. In other words, Jesus laid out this path to follow and in which to lead, not only in where it is going, but how to behave in the journey along the way. It is an ordered family with a purpose, and leadership is crucial always, especially in the midst of hardship. The successful leader is measured by the condition of those who follow him or her in this case. Closing this way, leadership, in other words, is a bit like friendship. It's something that happens best when you're not thinking about leadership or friendship as it might be, but about whatever it is that you're actually doing together. It's in the process of being family together and dealing with life day in and day out that leadership is made known. It's done in the hard, everyday kinds of things, not in specialized training, not in titles, and certainly not in self-definition or books that we might write about ourselves. It's in the trenches of life each and every day, in good and hard times. So some questions to keep in mind for Sunday are these. What are the core qualities regarding leadership that are in view here? Express those in your own words. What do we need to embrace fully about leadership? Whether you are a leader or aspire to leadership or are a follower, what do we need to embrace fully together? What encouragement and help is given to all believers in the family of God in the instruction Peter gives here? Thinking what Peter's saying overall here, how does this help us all? How does this help us in the larger scheme of things? Why is this subject so important when believers in the churches are feeling pressure and even persecution? Why is this so important at really, really difficult times, in times of uncertainty and trial and or persecution or martyrdom, so to speak? What are those things that you appreciate and understand to be key about that here? So that's where we are going this weekend, and I hope this is good just to stir your thinking and get you prepared for a time of interaction and discussion this coming Sunday. So we're learning what it means or what it will mean to be at home with God through the things that Peter is teaching us in his first letter. Have a great rest of the evening and day on Saturday. See everybody on Sunday at 10 a.m.